All right, let's get you streaming like a pro with Sammi. Welcome, my name is Jay and welcome to Tarnished Streamer Studios. Today we're talking about buttons and everything you need to know about them so that you can be a Sammi pro. All right, let's start. So I'm going to break down how to create a button with these points here. If you stick around, I'll also have bonus content to make your buttons even better, so stick around. Take note, if this is your first time using Sammi, you may want to watch my first video, how to set up your Sammi with OBS. The link will be in the description below. So this is the Sammi program. Basically, it's a deck that has virtual buttons that you can push. Think of it as a Elgato Stream Deck virtually. The first thing you need to do is create a deck. You can do that by right-click or clicking on this icon here to add new deck. To get into that deck, you just need to double-click on it. So once you're in the deck, you can modify a few things to this deck. First, you can rename it to keep yourself organized, which is really good. You'll also notice there's an X and Y coordinate over here in the top left, which says 10 by 10. It's just referring to it has 10 by 10 squares, which is how many buttons you can potentially add to this deck. You can go up as 50 by 50, but I recommend not doing that. If you got fat fingers like I do, and you're trying to push a virtual button on a tablet, it might be difficult. So keep it at 10 by 10 or less. Also, you can either add a background image to your deck, or you could change the color, or you can pick a random color. You push save, it changes the color. Anytime you want to save modifications to a deck, you just need to push save. You can disable a deck, which will disable all the buttons within that deck, and you can right click and you'll notice be able to copy, duplicate, and you can also delete a deck like such. So getting back into the deck, you can start creating buttons. You can push any of these squares and right click on it. And then you'll see a little sub menu say create button, paste button, or import from JSON. Basically, you can create a button from scratch, or you can copy and paste another button, or you can be able to copy a JSON file that has a pre-made button and import it here. So we're going to create a new button. So this is what you'll see. So right click on this button, you'll get a new sub menu. I suggest to go from top to bottom when you're creating a new button to keep it systematic for yourself. So the first thing we should do is edit its appearance. Here you can change the color of your button either by dragging the mouse cursor around, or you can put a specific color code. You can also label your button, and you can also put a background image if you wish to do so, and push save to finalize the changes. So I went ahead and created some buttons to save some time. We're going to go over to button number 1. So we had just edit the appearance. Now we're going to edit settings. This is what you'll see. If you remember, in edit appearance, we called it button number 1. You can see it here. A pro tip is to relabel your button. You'll get an auto-generated number, which would be like ID number 1 and ID number 2 and so on and so forth. But I would relabel it to the name I called it. Now the next thing is group ID. Now group ID allows you to group buttons together either in one deck or multiple decks to put it in a queuing system. So when you have pushed a button, or when chat, or you have a redemption, or you get bits, whatever's triggering those buttons, the queue will stack these buttons on top of each other, and so that one button can only run at a time. This is so that your computer doesn't get overloaded and shut down, or your stream stutters. So we talked about the queuing system in great detail, but then you're like, why is there a allow queue checkbox? Well, remember, Sammi's very versatile. There are situations where you may want to group buttons together, but you don't want them queuing. A good example of this is when I have created sound bites, I would group them together, but I would make sure that was unchecked. This prevents spamming of sound bites in your chat. So in button number 4, you're going to see that allow button overlap is checked. What this allows you to do is when the button is running, you can push it again and it will restart the button before it's actually finished. So in button number 3, I purposely left the button ID as ID 4. That is a generic self-generated number. If you look at the queuing system, you'll see a whole bunch of these ID numbers and be like, I don't know what any of these buttons are, what's triggering what, if you had like 30 buttons going off at the same time. This is the importance of labeling the button ID to the name of the button so that you can go right to the button if you're having a problem with it. So these two buttons, drag 1 and drag 2, is a good example of a slider type button where you could adjust your volume. This is where you would use the allow button overlap. and then use a multi-drag press. So now that we finished the settings of the buttons, we're going to go and add a trigger to button number 3. Right click again, go to edit triggers. You're going to see a plus, you're going to click on that, and you're going to see a laundry list of various triggers. For this demonstration, we'll use Twitch chat. Here, you'll notice an asterisk. An asterisk is basically saying a wildcard. Anything that is typed into the Twitch chat would actually trigger this button, which we don't want for demonstration purposes. We'll just put an S. You can tailor this to a specific person, like username, or a group of people. If you just want everyone to use it, then leave all these boxes unchecked. If you want it case sensitive, then obviously check it on or off. Allow empty wildcard. I've never used this. If you know what it is, let me know in the chat. So we're gonna go ahead and save this. So now we got Twitch open. You'll see I got S typed in the chat. As soon as I press enter, you hear the button. Shows that you successfully added a trigger to button number 3. So the meat and the potatoes of a button, the command lines. Easy peasy. We're going to go in, going to click on the button, right click, and edit commands. First things first, you're going to see this button label. This is when you went into that same button, you went right click, edit appearance, and you went to name it. And then button ID is when you right clicked and edit settings, you change the button ID. The creators have realized that a lot of people like to track these and make sure that they're the same. And because a lot of times you're in edit commands, they just made it easier for us. So now to add lines of code, first thing you do is press the plus sign. You'll see a laundry list of various groups of categories. Now, for the sake of this, we're just going to recreate the soundbite, which we need to go into OBS commands, which basically is the commands that allow you to remotely control your OBS. We're going to source change visibility. Basically, the little eyeball beside sources, that's what we're turning on and off. You're going to see all this. This check here is basically allows you to select various lines on and off. You can do it here, and that will check all and check or uncheck everything. This one on this side basically disables it. You can uncheck them all or check them all. This one here allows you to turn on or turn off the little eyeball beside the source. And this is a delay. So 0 instantaneous, or if you want a 1 second delay, it's 1000 milliseconds. Keep your main your OBS as main, because unless you have 2 sources of OBS, which I'm pretty sure you don't. And then we're looking for the scene. So we're looking for the scene that has the source that we're looking for. So hit that sounds, and then you'll find a list of sources in that scene. We're looking for UI. And we want to turn this on, and we want to leave it at 0, so we want to turn on right away. Now I can do it this way and do the whole process over again, or like I said before, you can click on it, copy, and then come up here and push the paste button. And then it's going to copy exactly. You don't want 2 lines turns it on. You want it to turn off the little eyeball in OBS, and you want to put in a delay so that the soundbite can actually play. Now you can save it. You can run it here to see if the lines of code work, and you can hear it, meaning that it works. Then you hit push OK and then save. Before testing the trigger that we put in button 3, I'm going to show you how to open up the Sammi deck. Because this right now, what we've been working in is kind of the back end. We want to have the front end where we would actually push the button to activate physically. So you open up Sammi panel that's sitting here, open panel. Now you see it open automatically because I made the option there. Now you have your virtual deck here. Physically push this button, it will activate the soundbite. You'll notice that it went around. That's just processing all the command lines in there. If you go over to Twitch chat and typed in S, it worked. So pro tip, you'll see active buttons. This will show you which buttons are actually active at that moment. So if I typed in S, you'll notice button number 3 will come up, as well as first chat. That's because that's the way I have it designed. Other pro tip is variable viewer. This is showing you all the buttons within all your decks. These ID 183, 182, so on and so forth are the ones that are self-generated by Sammi. And if you have all your buttons like this, you can see how quickly this would get confusing. Where the ones that I have created are named accordingly to the name of the actual button within the back end of the deck. So if I see Discord, I know I'm going to this one, this button here. You'll see the settings, it's Discord. So there you have it. you have enough information to get started and start getting into it and experimenting. And if there's something you want me to show you, then let me know in the chat, in the comments below. Now, I did promise an extra tip, and that is, so if you're like me, you like to have tactile buttons that you can physically push. Unfortunately, Sammi Deck doesn't have it. It's virtual, but you can link up your Elgato Stream Deck to your Sammi Deck. So if you go over to streamup.tips, this is the website that Andy Lippy had created. The links will be in the comments below. You go into products and you scroll down. There is a plugin for your Elgato to read your Sammi bridge. And there you have it. If you got through all that content, you're going to be better at this than I am. But if you like this content, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, click on here. Also, if you got suggestions, leave a comment below. All right, until next time.